We are at the cabin by the sea, Western Norway, and I figured I would make a video for you members presenting our cabin and the surroundings of the cabin, yes. Behind me you can see the boat laying there by the floating dock, and on that side you will find the harbor that is for boaters to tow up. Like that one passing behind me now. You can tow up and go and buy an ice cream. That is, however, the same person owning that and the same person we're having a large conflict. And with me, I'm not only me and my wife, it's most of the cabin owners nearby. And that is another story that we will get into in another video. So, let's take a look at the cabin. And here is the chaos of a building. The cabin, it's not a small building like the one up in the mountains, but it is actually smaller than it used to be when we bought it, and I'll explain that. Down here you can also see the boathouse, which I have refurbished. We will get back to that as well. We are, as you can see, in a position where we have the surroundings all alone, which is very likeable for us Norwegian. We like people as long as they are a bit away from us. So the best neighbor is the neighbor you cannot see or hear. We own the property from about over there and all the way quite far as you can see trees behind the cabin. Let's go and have a look. The position of the cabin is like that is south and that is west. It will mean that during winter we will have a lot of wind coming in from the southwest area. But as you can see, it's not far. It's not a large stretch of ocean. So the waves are quite limited, but the wind might be very hard, so making it a bit challenging to maneuver the boat to the floating dock during winter storms. But that is fun. During summer, the wind often shifts to the north, from the north. Like it is right now, you can maybe see sort of like waves moving in this direction. It means the wind has shifted to northwest. And that makes quite a lot of waves, but we are protected from that in this bay. Also, we are protected from the wind during summer, as this area is well insulated by trees, reducing the wind quite a lot, as is the case right now. As I'm sitting here, there are hardly any wind. But in the fjord, there is a lot of wind. That open stretch over there is in the northwestern direction, as long as it can be. It stretches to the open sea. So the waves might be very large during storms from northwest, which is not that common, really. Let's move along. This is the northern, or actually northwestern border of our property in this corner. And we have fenced in all the property due to sheep. There are lots of wild sheep on this island. Not wild in the sense that no one owns them, but wild in the sense that they are free to walk around and behave a bit like wild sheep. They will eat anything grown inside this fence. The fence is about 280 meters long, not sure how many yards that will be, but it's quite a lot, and it's more than enough for us. Actually, more than we really need. But in these areas, properties are not that expensive, and the people who used to own this place bought it quite cheap from another farm that was here a long time ago. So expanding a little bit the surroundings of the cabin. Let's move to the top of the hill and take a look at the northeastern border. Border? Can we say border? I think we can. This is the northern gate to the property. As you may see, it says video overwalking, video surveillance camera. Yes, we have installed that. It's due to our delicious neighbor running the boat harbor down there. He is sneaking into our properties once in a while, so that's another story. Let's come in. Right, closing the gate. This area used to be for dogs, actually. The previous owners in the 1970s run a dog farm, not breeding, but taking care of other people's dogs when they were on holiday. So it was a great area for the dogs, I guess, I hope. I'm now on top of the hill that marks the northeastern corner of our property. There's a great view up here. Please come up and let's have a look. On the way to the top, we pass through a nice landscape with lots of rhododendrons my wife has placed here. You can also see up here there are rhododendrons. These islands were actually the last to have soil. So even now, the layer of soil out here near the ocean is quite thin. You can see also that on the plants that grows here, they prefer soil that is sour. And here we are at the top of the northeastern border, the corner of the fence. And as we can see, there is a great view of the property. Also, a very great view of the electricity and the old telephone cables, not that far away. It's great when the nature wakes up after hibernating through winter, and it's one of my favorites to just enjoy. Down here you can see the cabin. You can see the roofs on the cabin, and the red roof is the only original roof that is left. The others have been refurbished. Let's move to the southern end of the property and to our closest neighbor. There are lots of old trees. This one is very old, probably dating back to the 1930s, and not in good condition anymore. But that's a part of nature's cycle. Over here we are about halfway mid-property. There is a dam. Let's have a look at that. This used to be an open well, water source for the property. Now nature has reclaimed its property, of course, we can see that, as we have got other sources of water. But that's also another story. We used to have water from the roof, which we collected, large steel tanks in the basement, old tanks from farms, milk tanks. But now we have finally, after 8 years of fighting the neighbor, we have got public water, which is great. Let's move on to the south end. The southern part of the property opens up and is widely dominated by lots of rhododendron plants. My wife loves rhododendron, I like them too. And we are looking at the southern corner, southeast corner of the property, all the way back there. Let's have a look. And here we are. The eastern border is not much to look at, it's just plants, I guess, but it's nice. And just behind me is also the other neighbor, so it's, I guess it's about 100 meters between our cabins. and that's okay. Moving on to the southwestern corner. This is the southwestern corner, leaning towards the west, which is the case for the entire property. It's favorable due to the sun conditions. We do not have as much sun, as those of you living further south. The sun is sitting lower on the sky, even in the summer, which makes it favorable to tilt sort of the property a little bit towards west in order to have the most out of the sun there is. There is no pity in having less sun. There are lots of good things too. We have less fires in the woods. What can I say? Less people living here. It's also good because it makes this property possible for us to own just about, I guess it's about 30 minutes ride with car from where we live at home, to the boat, and 10 minutes crossing the ocean, not ocean, crossing the fjord to the island. So sitting in the cabin after less than an hour. It's the second largest city in Norway we're talking about, which does not make it large, but for us it's a luxury ride. And we couldn't, of course, have afforded that if this was a crowded area. Moving in the direction of the cabin again, north, we follow the fence out here, 5 meters away from me. And there is another corner just over here, which marks the border between the original property and the extended property that the owners bought from the farm a long time ago. Just below the little dam, not dam, water source, you can find the rest of what was collecting more water. They had the bathtub in the cabin when it was people living there all the time, running the dog shelter, and they needed obviously a lot of water. These are now only relics of a time that used to be. In the 1970s, my family actually had, my father and mother, we had 2 dogs, a bulldog, English bulldog, and a greyhound. And once upon a time when we did a holiday, the dogs were actually at this property, this shelter. And that was actually reported in the news because the dogs were very particular, very rare. And having 2 actually of those rare dogs made the newspaper come all the way out here and have a look. I will see if I can find a picture of that. Let's move it. As I enter this area towards west, we are now at the old property. I guess the border was about here, cutting the cabin in 2 parts. And it extends towards west and towards the sea. And down here you can also see the boathouse. Coming down to the cabin, this building is a bit of everything. It originates back to the early 1930s. The second part was built later when people moved and lived here all full time. Also when the dog shelter popped up. We have actually reduced the size of the property as there was a huge area of the dog shelter that we obviously did not need. So we consulted the property regulators, which is the public, and applied to rebuild to the current status. And it doesn't look like much, but it's okay for us. And when we came here, there was a lot of garbage. The people that owned the property and loved it had grown old and weak, and they were no longer in the position of removing the garbage, so it piled up. And I must confess that we looked at the property 3 times before buying it. And I guess many other people also looked at the property and running with their tails below their feet. And that's natural, because it was really, really, really a lot to do. But also that reflected the price. We paid about $38,000 for the entire property, including the boathouse. But you cannot compare that with how it looks today. And also remember, this was 24 years ago. So it was a little bit more money, but still very cheap. It was about half what you had to pay for an ordinary cabin with a lesser property and no boathouse. But anywho, let's take a look at the boathouse. Actually, before going to the boathouse, let's take a look at the upper part of the cabin. This is where my wife makes soil by grinding up this little cabin. We got this for free. It's actually the guard cabin from the old yard I used to have the fisher in. But when that yard was closed, they no longer needed the guardhouse, and I had it for free as long as I removed it. So we picked it apart and set it up here. We also have a barn, can we call it that? This one. And that also was part of what we kept from the property. We had to rebuild it slightly because the old structure was very bad, so we had to apply to change the structure. And it came out quite okay. This is for storing materials and wood to the wood stove. As you can see, we also have a tractor here. This one. It's a Japanese Kubota, very small. It's called B7100 HST, which indicates that it is a rear drive only, and it has hydraulic, not only pump for the backhoe, but also hydraulic drive. So it means there is only a pedal to steer the direction of and the speed, and the oil takes care of the rest. Unfortunately, when I bought this with the backhoe to dig the garden, but the the seller sold me a bad engine. It was, when I got it, there was flickering oil light, not when I started it, but after 10-15 minutes of drive, it started to flicker. And as the engine got hotter, it changed to more or less the red light oil lamp being on all the time. So that was not good. I obviously should have returned it, but you know, getting it at the harbor, driving it home. It was when I was in the financial business and I drove with a suit, which was obviously a great sight. I contacted the seller and got a refund of some of the money, but it was really garbage because I need a new engine. But now it has stood here for such a long time, it's probably no good anymore. So if any one of you fancy a free tractor, please come and get it. So this is the sun deck, and it's not sun here right now because the tree is stealing the sun, but it will soon be sun. It's about 1:30. This is the entrance to the cabin, and there is also an anecdote about these doors, because when I was a young man, just newly educated from the business school, I got a job. First a temporary job, and then a long-lasting, not everlasting, but very long-lasting job at the insurance company. And at that time, way back in 1991, I guess it was, yes. Then everyone who smoked at the office, and we had offices. And these are actually the doors that closed up the offices. So one office cell was this width. And why are these here, you can ask? Well, firstly, this is the entrance to the cabin, and since it is facing southeast in the winter times, it can be very windy and lots of rain hammering on. So it's great to have this little locker, so to speak, not only to have the door opening directly, so it's good for us. Why are these doors here right now, you can ask? Yes, and that is because in 2010, something like that, there was a wind coming over everyone who had offices that, we should no longer have offices. We should sit together in an open space. And that should be much more effective because we can then communicate a lot and make a lot of noise. And the idea was that it should be more effective, but was it? Maybe for those that are extrovert, but those persons introvert who work best when it's quiet, it was a disaster. But it saved a lot of space, of course. You see, we also have, I got all of these for free when they wanted to get rid of them. Nobody wanted them, and I wanted them, so I took them. Lots of work to get them out there, but that's okay. This area, the kitchen, which is actually an outside part of the main structure, is original in the sense that it was there when we bought the cabin, but it was in bad condition, so we had to pick it down and rebuild it. It's a nice structure and it's very sort of a opulent room. I'm not sure if that's the correct word, but it's nice. It's nice. And on the back side of the kitchen we also have this structure with even more office walls. And this is for dining. It's now a little bit messy in here. That's because we have worked a lot with the public water. And there are tools here that is not yet removed. Let's go to the boathouse now. It's lovely to be down by the sea. It's very calm for me, in peace, give peace to my mind. I always love the sea. This is why, obviously, I do all the boat stuff I do. I consider myself very lucky to have got this property, but also, of course, we have worked a lot to make it what it is now. So this is obviously the boathouse as it is right now. This used to be a very similar boathouse, but it was in very bad condition when we bought it. It was built from materials that they had got from here and there, and it didn't really fit the structure, and it was very weak at that time. It was old. So I applied the government to renew it and also to lift it a little bit, because the sea tend to get higher, and this was built a little bit low, so it got flooded several times a year. So I was allowed to do that and to keep the structure and basically the same shape on the roof, and of course I did change to door and windows that looked a little bit more like they should be according to our tradition at the western side of Norway. So I built it myself. I was meant to get help from a friend, the same friend that helped me to build the cabin, rebuild the cabin actually, because I didn't tear down the cabin, but I rebuilt it. Unfortunately, he got sick that summer. We were supposed to work when I got holiday from my work, and we were supposed to start. He became sick, and unfortunately he later died from that. Rest in peace, dear Petter. Anyway, so I had to build it myself. That worked. I got help from my father, and I built this main structure in 5 weeks. Probably a long time, but I'm not a carpenter, so I had to use the necessary time to make something that was strong and correct according to the plans. Luckily, I had applied the government to do my own build, so I was still in charge of what happened. So I had a carpenter that sort of like I can consult, and sort of for the government said that this is okay, he can do the job. So Of course, it took some more time to have all the skin, the planks, you know, but basically one summer. And I was happy, very, very happy with achieving this. For me, that was great. The roof on the boathouse is actually tiles, roof tiles from Holland, Netherlands. They are Dutch, and they are from 1929. They were originally placed on our home in the center of the city in Bergen. And we had to change the roof because it was getting less watertight. And at the same time we did change the roof tiles, but these are actually in good condition, so I figured I should have them on the boathouse because I had the ability to build the roof as strong as necessary to keep the weight of these stones. And also I figured the boathouse would look a little bit nicer and older with these stones. You may ask, what are these plywood plates here? Well, this is the door. It's an entrance to the building, but I haven't gotten to it to make a door here. We applied to make a door, so we have the possibility to place it. But I haven't actually made the door yet, so temporary for 15 years now. These plywood plates, no problem. And here we have, these holes are ventilation from, as you can see, water entering the basement, of course. And there are some tubes here that is actually, it's ventilation from specified areas inside, just to make sure every part of the basement is ventilated. There are, of course, nothing in the basement but structure keeping up the floor. The old boathouse actually contained rooms with electricity and beds to sleep in, as it was legal then at that time to use it also as a cabin and sleeping area. And there was also on this side sort of like a sun deck on stilts, can we say that? On this side. I have not implemented that in the new structure, as I can't see that is necessary. You may also ask, what is this? Well, this is an old winch that used to be on an old wooden boat, no longer in existence. Why is it here? It is here because I wanted it to be here. I bought it not to use it, but I like sort of the solidness of this. So it's more like a relic from an ancient era, a lovely era some time ago, that there was a lot of smaller boats, business boats, not business, but sort of like transporter boats, and it was nice. So I planned to put it somewhere on the property, but since we have had this argument with this person that runs the dock over there, not the dock, but the harbor, it has been left here, and it's the same with what was supposed to be here. We'll get back to it in some years, I'm sure. This ramp is, of course, for transporting boats into the boathouse and out of the boathouse, of course. And it's also nice to have this boat that nobody cares about, but it's good to use as a little workboat around here. I sometimes have to transport sand from underneath the floating dock and put it around the boathouse because it's built on sand and we don't want it to sink. So this is basically the inside of the boathouse. It's a lot of boat stuff, like it should be. Also the mast for the fisher, one of them, the other one is behind there. This is the main mast. And a few outboard engines, 2.3, this is a 9.9, 15. This is a modern 6, I guess, 4-stroke, yeah. Anywho, there are lots of stuff. I bought this dinghy for the fisher, but realized later that the refurbishment of the fisher would take some time. That boat I got as a salvage price. It was sunken in the harbor where I am the harbor master, and and I rescued the boat and I got it for free. That's the price to get it away. Not sure what to do with it. I might recycle it later. I'm obviously not going to use it. I have enough projects. So this also is used for storage of lots of stuff that we have, and there are lots of relics here from the past. Here we can see some of the relics. This is from when I was a kid, and we used to play with these glass globes, can we say that? Very nice color inside. And I got a lot of them because I managed the game quite well. And we won by playing against other kids. So those unfortunate ones that didn't play that well got less glass bottles, but that's the name of the game. This is upstairs, where I also store a lot of stuff for the fisher and store a lot of stuff, yes, from home. But there are mainly boat stuff. This is sails for the fisher, new sails. I've already bought them, yes. I haven't told anyone, but now you know. And this is for the mizzen, the aft sail. Not that large, really. This is a motor sailor, haven't got that large sails. And since it has 2 masts, even that brings the sail area down. Right, so lots of stuff. You can see there are speakers here. Those are the Boathouse and Wilkins 801 Nautilus. Yeah, from 1999, I guess, when my neighbor bought them, and I bought them from him some time ago. There's not much to see. I've insulated this area because the boathouse need an area to have dry stuff that doesn't need moisture and doesn't stand the moisture. So we tend to store electronic things up here. It's good because this is a dry area and it doesn't get moist as it does downstairs from the sea. So I keep an oven just a little bit on all winter to keep this circulating air going. Here we also find 3 pieces of the same stuff, the electronic e-bus pressure D4. It's a 4 kilowatt diesel heater. I have 3 of them. I got one from the boat, the fisher. That's this one. It has some kind of error code. I got one of these 2, which is totally unused, from a sailboat I used to have. It was a 32 S5 from 1990, and it was never installed in that boat. So obviously I didn't sell it with the boat. Never, if you sell a boat or a car, never sell it with accessories if you can avoid it, because you will not get extra paid, not much. You will get a little bit, but not what is represented of value. The last one I got from a friend, Laffen. When his father died, it was left there, and I exchanged it with him for a 12-inch display I got with a fisher. So yeah, so I don't know if that works, but it seems to be in good nick. But I will use at least one of these from 3. I will get one of these to work. That must be a modest claim, I guess. Okay, the view from the boathouse. Can you figure out what this is? What is this? It has to do with a fisher. You can pause the video, but here it comes. It's the emergency rudder tiller for mounting inside the boat and directly onto the shaft from the rudder. So if anything breaks down in the new steering systems, there is an emergency system. And these are standards with the fishers, as far as I understood. Let's get inside the cabin. So this long entrance hall was here when we bought the cabin, but not in this shape. It was totally rebuilt, but we have kept the base walls, what that was holding up the cabin. And you may ask, what is the story with this wheel? That was the wheel from a wooden boat that my father and mother, but obviously my father, used to have in the 1980s. It was a 62 foot and 21 feet wide 1917 model sailing boat that had later become a a motor boat. It had installed a single cylinder 50 horsepower semi-diesel, partly diesel. That is, it's diesel, but it's a two-stroke engine, and it is a complicated thing to fire them up, but they are very reliable and very slow revving. I think they are about 350 revolutions per minute on full speed. Anywho, this was the steering wheel he bought to the boat when he rebuilt it back to a sailing ship. Unfortunately, the boat went down somehow. We don't know how that happened, but we know that it did happen. And we rescued, among other things, the wheel. So it's a little bit worn from being at the sea floor for a long time. So this is the living room of the cabin. It's a little bit messy now, but don't worry, it will always be like that in our family. It's my fault, among others. There are okay space. It's not that large compared to the size of the cabin, but it's okay. It's about, I don't know, 25 square meters, something like that. It's enough for me to sit and enjoy. Yeah, and the floor, very solid. I bought that a long time ago from a cabin up in the mountain. Most of what you see is, however, not expensive at all, or actually free. So I'm a sucker of going to what would be the equivalent of garage sales. We don't do that in Norway, but we have markets that people deliver stuff to that sells them cheap. So these carpets are very cheap. I guess this is silk, but it's a little bit sunburnt. But I guess the three of them is about $50. The clock is from my grandmother and grandfather. They got it for their wedding. They figured I enjoyed it so much when I was a kid that they wanted me to have it when they grew old and felt that the life was coming to an end. This is the other part, the other way, the living room, seen northbound. Can we say that? This is the fire stove, wood stove. Yeah, it's made entirely out of stone, except the door. That's metal, of course, but the rest is stone, just stone. And this stone is sort of like, it withstand fire really good. It will not crack in any way. And after 1 hour, it will still be touchable. After 2 hours, it will be hot, very hot. The next morning, it will still be warm. It will sort of like absorb the energy, so it doesn't get really hot and then you stop the wood and it gets cold again. So this is sort of like leveling out the temperatures. So this is the kitchen. It's not large, but it's okay. It's enough for us. We are not making huge amount of food for huge amounts of people. We can sit here and enjoy the food, or we can go into the living room. There is a microwave and a coffee machine, of course. Coffee is very important. Very small dishwasher, very water effective. Only uses 9 liters of water, about 2.5 gallons maybe. And as you can see, there are lots of windows, so it's a nice room with lots of light, daylight coming in. So good. Let's go to the bathroom. This is basically it. We have heating cables on the floor, wash basin, now with public water, excellent. A heater, water heater, washing machine for clothes, and a shower to be mounted, not yet done. And of course a toilet. It's a vacuum toilet, which will, if you see, the pump is there, so if I press this button, going upstairs. This is the way to the master bedroom. And coming in here, yeah, it's quite a large room. there is sufficient headspace, except when you hide the sides. So it's a loft, basically. A nice view. Just outside master bedroom there is a closet. Used to be Sarah's sleeping room when she was very small. Other side, the two youngest boys' bedroom. And then moving to the left when you come up the stairs. This is a small room. Was set up to be a small bathroom. Hasn't been used. Double wall, so the kids could make noise in that room. And we could be downstairs not hearing anything. Coming into the living room upstairs. This is like for the kids. They are no longer kids, so now it's not very much used. It's a room with, yeah, we have this video stuff. I am not sure what it's called. It's a projector it's called, isn't it? Yeah, I think it is. Here we can see from the other side, it's a 90-inch canvas for projecting films, movies. And there is a surround equipment stuff here with, it's okay noise for movies, but it's rubbish for music. These speakers, on the other hand, these are horn speakers. They are called Hedlund horn. And it's a design where you only use one element to cover the upper range and mid-range. And the mid-range is a horn that is compressed in here and it's going out, and the sound is coming out here. Excellent liquid sound in the mid-range, like speaking, singing. And this is a louder element, I think it's called. Sorry for the art, it's very strange. I don't know what to do with it. All right, living room, no, sorry, sleeping room and sleeping room. Yeah, it's sufficient. And this one. In 2001, we were looking for a cabin, and it had to be affordable. We had the equivalent of about $70,000 we could use or spend to buy a cabin. And we looked at several places and we came over this, and it was a mess. It was really, everything was a mess, and this was all in bad condition. But it really doesn't matter. It's always the property, the soil, the view, the harbor. That's the important thing. We really loved all the sand, the white sand, and the shallow waters. We loved that it had a large boathouse, even though a very bad shape. And we got this for the equivalent of about $38,000, everything. And after that, I've been using years to refurbish it. I've gone traveling to the cabin alone when my wife was home with the kids, and waking up 1 degree plus inside here and had to work. It was terrible, but also good for me. Like, you learn that hard work gives results. That's, I guess, what life is all about. If you have the possibility to work hard, I recommend it. And it's not possible for everyone. We have been lucky, I guess. And living in Norway, this is a possibility we do have. We have lots of coastal line. We have a very long coastal line. I think it's the second longest in the world. I think Canada has a longer coastal line than Norway, but that's it. So there are actually space for the 5.5 million people living in Norway, about so. To have a cabin. It's very strict actually now to have a cabin by the sea, because they do not want every strip of land by the sea to be occupied with cabins. So they are very restrictive in certain areas. This is one of the areas. So buying an old cabin was a good thing. We have spent about, I don't know, $150,000 to refurbish everything, and it's not done yet, but it's the most costly things are done, I guess. So yeah, so I'm happy, and we are happy with it, and we used it a lot. We have been here basically every weekend since our kids were small. And now we have bought the cabin up in the mountains as well. It was also very cheap, very affordable. And this place, well, that's about 30 minutes drive from the city of Bergen and 10 minutes with a boat to the island. Being on an island is obviously, price-wise, if you are going to sell it, a disadvantage because you can't drive to the cabin. You have to have a boat, or you can take the ferry once in the morning and once in the afternoon. But for us, that was never an option. But the good thing is that on an island, there will never be many ordinary houses, people living here. There will mostly be cabins, and which means there are no car roads here. There are no criminality, which there are not much of in Norway anyway, but I think even less because it's hard to get here. And it's quite near town and still feel like it's far away from the city. Anywho, this was the video about the cabin by the sea. I will, as I said, present the story about the conflict that has lasted 8 years at a later time, because that needs videoing to basically understand what the problems are, but it's huge. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed the video, and now you know a little bit about the Norwegian cabin at the island of Geitanger.